It was on an old show of Absolute Power, and we were staging a scene there on the Paramount lot. And I remember that morning I was there early because I still Midwestern values. I was going to be there early, and I was going to be the last to leave.
Not early, you're late.
That's right. And so Dad was in the Navy, and if you were 15 minutes early, you were on time.
That's awesome.
So we were there, and I'm sitting on the curb drinking my coffee, and up behind me I hear this, "Well, are you ready?"
Matt Woolley Podcast.
Okay, our guest today is Jim Evans. Thank you for being here, Jim.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We give the rundown of who Jim Evans is on these podcasts. We let everybody know a little bit about the personal and professional. So Jim Evans, who is it? He is a husband and father. He's been both an associate and regional director of development at John Brown University. He's been a national account executive at a company called New Creature.
New Creature. It's a creature, always a creature.
It's awesome. Business development roles at Gray Communications, Solve, and Work Matters. And you've also had a lot of experience with nonprofit organizations, Champion for Kids, Lifewater International, and now you are the executive director of Havenwood, an organization that empowers single mothers.
That's correct.
So before we get off into it, Jim, where are you from? Where do you
grew up in Oklahoma City? Because I still consider myself an Okie.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's Oklahoma City is my hometown, my stomping grounds. Go Pirates! I went to Putnam City High School, the original, and you'll learn that there are two other Putnam cities, but those are both just directions. There's Putnam City North and Putnam City West.
Okay.
I'm from Putnam City, the original.
Okay.
And so grew up there. Became my first passion, really, was the ministry. I was licensed to the ministry at 17, and so that's always been a big part of my life.
Awesome.
And I was attending Oklahoma Baptist University, growing up there in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Got married my junior year, and by the end of my senior year, we were going through a divorce. And so I turned in my license to the ministry and went into what had been at that point just a hobby. I went into theater. And I went into theater, got my master's degree from Oklahoma City University in technical theater production.
So I'm speaking with a thespian.
You are speaking with a thespian, techie anyway. I was a member of the IATSE membership, so that was a stagehand union, and followed the typical pathway up and down the East Coast, chasing whatever gig I could find.
That's awesome. What did you give some examples?
The most notable would probably be back in the day, Burt and Lonnie Anderson was married to Burt Reynolds, and they had a little theater in Jupiter, Florida, and I worked there as the sound engineer. And I got to work with a bunch of old talent from Vegas. So they'd go to Florida to, take some time off from Vegas. So I got to work with Debbie Reynolds and Shecky Green and Alan King and a bunch of these old Vegas,
That's awesome.
cronies. And so
what was that like as a young man?
It was cool. I remember one incident vividly where at the time it was a 93 limited edition Softail Harley Davidson that I had. And I don't even know how I got it. But anyway, Debbie Reynolds and we all leaving the theater that night after the show. And Debbie was truly Vegas. She didn't sleep. She's up there in age already, and I was a young kid, so I'm hopping on my motorcycle, about to drive back to our little condo where we lived. And she goes, "Well, where are we going, kids?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm going home to bed." And she goes, "Oh, I'm from Vegas. We don't sleep." And so we literally called this dance club that was about to close down and said, "Will you stay open if we all come over there?" And he said, "Sure." So Debbie Reynolds took the entire cast of this little production, and I forget what we were doing or what show she was in or whatever, but she took the entire cast over to this dance club, and we danced until about 4 or 5 in the morning.
That's awesome.
Oh, that was my big Jupiter, Florida story.
That is fantastic. I don't think I've heard such a unique story.
But
that's amazing.
Debbie Reynolds rode on the back of my Harley Davidson to our little shindig, and I got to take Debbie Reynolds on the back of a Harley. It was pretty funny.
That's pretty awesome.
So, and that took me on then I realized I couldn't make a living doing theater, and that took me to film. and got a call and went to work on the film Twister. Was my very first production.
Is that right?
The film Twister was shooting in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I
That's
left
awesome.
Florida.
Great movie.
Yeah, it was fun. I got to work. My official title was permanent extra. And I just got to hang around on set and help out with everything from photo doubling to stunt work. And I met a gentleman there by Bill Young, and his name. And I went to work for Bill Young's precision stunt driving team. So all the driving you see done in the film where you don't see a star, that's our team doing that driving. So
that's awesome.
we got to do a lot of that. It was fun.
That is epic.
Yeah, that's how I cut my teeth.
Why don't you tell these things to kid with Jim? That's legit.
Well, that's what took me to L.A., and I thought, I'll give it a year or two, and I'll go out to L.A. and try that. And I was in L.A. for about 15 years, working at CBS and Paramount and different places. They give you different titles for different jobs, but I was always somebody's assistant. That's what it boils down to. And
Having exciting.
I got to meet some of my idols. I got to meet Clint Eastwood one time. That was fun.
Get off my van.
It was on an old show of Absolute Power, and we were staging a scene there on the Paramount lot. And I remember that morning I was there early because I still Midwestern values. I was going to be there early, and I was going to be the last to leave.
Not early, you're late.
That's right. And so Dad was in the Navy, and if you were 15 minutes early, you were on time.
That's on.
So we were there, and I'm sitting on the curb drinking my coffee, and up behind me I hear this, "Well, are you ready?"
That's awesome.
I jumped to attention, and I get to visit with Clint Eastwood before the shot. We get it all lined out. It was awesome. It was
Fantastic. Is he as nice as
He's phenomenal. I could brag about him forever. Working on one of his sets was an experience that you got 2 takes to get it. You got all the time in the world to set up. You tell him how long you need, he gives it to you. But once you're ready and you say you're ready, you got to be ready.
That's awesome.
You're going to have 2 takes. If you don't get it in 2 takes, you don't get it. You're moving on. And well, I've seen him do it many, many times.
That's awesome.
He was just a really class act to work for. You had to somebody practically had to die to get a job on his set,
Yeah.
And people loved working for him at the time.
That's wonderful.
I don't know what it's like today, but it was a joy then.
That's wonderful. Well, any other interest? Yeah, I mean,
I got a bunch of
share some.
But we were in L.A. for a good long time. I got to work for my longest stint was on a show called Touched by an Angel.
Oh yeah,
and that was my longest running job. I think I was there 4 or 5 years. The show lasted 9 years, and it was CBS's #1 show. And that was an incredible experience because at the time, after kind of divorce and leaving the ministry and all that, I was very bitter and growing up and spent a good portion of my younger years just angry and wanting to prove that, prove Jim Evans. And it was on that show where I was given the job, and first I really didn't want it, but I was given the job of working in the producers unit, which meant collaborating and working with the writers. And I worked for the executive producer. I was basically her assistant, Martha Williamson. And wonderful, wonderful lady, and a help to me at the time, helped me kind of heal from some of that wounding. And she introduced me to a gentleman by the name of Jack Hayford, who was a pastor out there. Jack literally became that kind of grandfatherly spiritual guide, and he quite literally loved me back into the church.
That's wonderful.
And I was attending his church, kind of visiting, and there's this little lady next to me, African-American woman, a little older, and we're just singing away, and they're singing a song I finally know and recognize, one of those old hymns, and you kind of give it that extra, oomph. Well, she leans over to me, and she goes, "Choir rehearsals at Wednesday on 7 p.m. downstairs." I said, "Ma'am, I appreciate that, but I'm not a member here. I'm just visiting." And she goes, "Well, I didn't ask you that. Choir's at 7 p.m. downstairs on a Wednesday night." I tried and tried and tried to get out of that. And she just was persistent. And finally I said, "Ma'am, what's your name?" She goes, Rose Stone. You can ask Jack about me." I said, "Okay." So after the service, I went to Jack and I said, "Who's Rose Stone? She keeps telling me rehearsals at 7 downstairs on Wednesdays." And he says, "You better be there."
That's awesome.
Well, it turns out Rose Stone was Rose from Sly and the Family Stone.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Oh, dude.
And so
That's awesome.
Rose Stone taught me the power of praise and how praising God and bringing that gratitude into your life breaks a lot of those shackles of bitterness and anger and frustration and even depression and that kind of stuff. So praise became, and gratitude, particularly gratitude, became a big part of my life at that point.
That's one.
And so, yeah, it was really cool. They did a great work. And then as life would have it, I told my roommate, I remember having a roommate at the time, and I said, "You know what? I think I'm okay being single. It's been 10 years since my divorce. I'm loving life. I get to travel when I want, go where I want." And about 2 weeks later, I met this wonderful young lady from Chelsea, Oklahoma, right outside of Claremore.
Yeah.
And her name was Sarah. And so that in itself was a story. But we met, first date was March, and we met in Phoenix. I flew from L.A. to Phoenix while she was on a business trip. And that was our first date, and we were married in August.
That's awesome.
And so we 3 years later, our daughter was born in 2003, and then we left Los Angeles and found Northwest Arkansas. And it was purely by God's grace and my ignorance that I discovered John Brown University. And they gave me a shot as a development director. About as green as I could be. I had no clue. But I loved seeing what would happen when somebody willing to give of their personal resources to help somebody else and kind of see that magic happen. And then they trained me. They trained me in major gift, playing giving. I loved playing giving. And it was the relationships that I got to build with those folks that I really loved. And we were getting settled. We had a new baby, and I remember I was traveling a lot. And it was a health scare that my wife had that convinced me I needed to stay at home more. She had a very serious miscarriage. We weren't able to have children after that, but I wanted to be at home more. And that's when New Creature and Patrick Spar and Brad Jones walked into my life, and I became a creature.
How did that happen?
Oh, my gosh. I don't have a hard time remembering how that happened. I just remember meeting Patrick Spara, and what was supposed to be an hour-long meeting turned into 3 or 4 hours of just storytelling and ideation and just talking about,
The walk
approaches. And
Yeah.
I mean, we just couldn't stop talking. And I remember Brad Jones leaving such an impression on me as to, okay, Patrick's the idea guy. That's obvious, but Brad was where the tire met the road. If it was going to get done, Brad I just really admired Brad and the work that he did. So I went to work for New Creature. Official title was VP of Marketing and Advertising. Mercy Health Systems was my very first advertising client. And called a couple old bosses, and it wasn't long before Paramount and Hasbro were clients and that kind of stuff. And thank you, Hannah Montana. And the multi-vendor palette, we hit a chord and really started doing well with the multi-vendor, what we called at the time, multi-vendor displays, and really did well.
Your Creature was the innovators.
And if they'd have known the heartaches that went into it.
No, I'm sure. I've heard stories. The dawn of retailtainment. Right.
Oh, my goodness. I hadn't heard that word in a long time.
Yeah.
But that's true. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember doing displays with, God gracious, I still remember this, 110 SKUs, 7 different planograms, 15 different companies, and they were all calendar displays, and I actually charged them by the linear inch that they occupied on the display. So that was pretty cool. That was a fun. We did stuff for Nickelodeon. We did stuff, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And 2008 hit. Yeah. Remember Project Impact and all that kind of stuff. Well, it did. I was laid off in 2008. And then God took this ignorant young man and did something really special in that a gentleman hired me to be kind of videographer and tell the story of this orphanage in Jinja, Uganda. And when I was there, it rattled me to the point that I did not want to go back to corporate. I knew I'd be in nonprofit work, and I've been in nonprofit work ever since. Absolutely love seeing individuals willing to be self-sacrificial for somebody else's benefit that they may never meet, they may never know them, but that to me is just beautiful. It brings out the best in humanity. And so it's a great way for me to kind of live out my faith in a real practical sense. So that's what I love about it.
Well, let's talk about your transition to Havenwood.
Yeah.
Very important and wonderful organization to the Northwest Arkansas area.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
I love it. Havenwood started over 30 years ago. It was part of the community development. At the time, it's called Community Development Center or something of that nature. I think it's called Community Development of Northwest Arkansas now. They oversee about roughly 300 doors in a 3-county area, low rent apartments and so forth. Well, Havenwood spun off and became its own 501c3 in 2019 to see if it could stand on its own legs. And Havenwood's sole mission is to take single mothers and their children from crisis to self-sufficiency. We're unique in the area that we're a 2-year program. So a single mom and her kids can move into Havenwood. We have 14 apartments. We've got studios and 1 bedrooms. So we have 14 apartments in a secure facility that we can protect them from abuse, stalkers, homelessness. Our top 5 crises that we define as crises is homelessness, abuse. We see sex trafficking. We see addiction, or I'll say just trouble with drugs in the past. And they're now clean but wanting to reestablish themselves. And then incarceration. They've been incarcerated for a long period of time. They're trying to integrate back into the community, and they're needing help getting back on their feet. So those are the typical what we see. So once they move in, a family will arrive with very little. Sometimes it's a car full of stuff or whatever they can carry in. So we provide a fully furnished apartment customized to that family's needs. So if it's a single mom with a 4-year-old little boy, we're going to have it decked out in Spider-Man or whatever. And we'll also have their things appropriate for her, things that she might need. Help her get settled and get her feet under her. We have then 4 phases that she'll have to achieve during a 2-year period in order to keep going in the program. First, let's get a full-time job and get that child care taken care of. Now, we're going to help as much as we can, but ultimately it's up to them. We want self-sufficiency. So they'll achieve their milestones, grow towards their educational and vocational goals. We have over 400 different types of certification programs that they can enroll in, from the University of Arkansas, NWAC, Upskill, wonderful organizations that have...
Is this all...
This is free for our ladies.
That's wonderful.
It's awesome. We got ladies now that have graduated in medical admin assistant. We got pharmacy techs.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's really cool to see them embrace this opportunity to get a better career path for themselves.
Absolutely.
Our caseworkers meet with them on a monthly basis, teaching everything from life skills like, financial literacy to maybe meal planning or holiday planning for meals, whatever they might need in their life. It varies greatly. They receive therapy and counseling services. And so we want to provide wraparound service to get them in that 2-year period where they can then, we call it graduate. They graduate from our program. And when they leave, they take everything in that apartment with them. So they might have arrived with nothing, but they're not going to leave with anything, not if they complete it. And then they become officially part of our 3rd-year alumni. And so as an alum, you live independently, but we encourage you to come back for mental health services. They can be a part of group night. We want them to be encouragers. Tell these other ladies that are in there that you can do this. This is how, making it work. We can point them to other resources that are in the area. So that's the kind of network we're trying to build out, is these ladies who have been through crisis, because nobody understands better than they do what that's like, build this network of graduates that can kind of help move them on. And so that's the intent. I've only been there since August of last year, and our entire team is brand new. And so a lot of what we're seeing now is former staff, former residents, former volunteers coming back to kind of help out and lend a hand and get this thing going in a good, healthy direction.
What are some of the needs that Havenwood faces right now?
Summer is tough. Well, I'll say this about all nonprofits, not just Havenwood. Summer is tough. Most families are out thinking about their vacations or whatever, and they're just not thinking about that charitable partner that they might help at Christmas. So if I could encourage anybody right now, is think of that charitable partner that during the summer month and reach out to them, see if there's a need. Right now, our pantries are down. We have food pantries, and these are pantries that don't sustain these families. These are pantries that are like, my budget got too tight this month, or I ran out of time, whatever that is. I can run to the food pantry and I can grab some mac and cheese, or I can grab some PB&J. We keep a list of stuff on our website, and it's in a PDF form. You can download it. These are the things that these families request most often. So you know what you're getting is going to be used. And so our food pantry, we have a health and beauty pantry that is everything from over-the-counter children's medications to makeup to you name it. And then cleaning pantry after the storm, our cleaning pantry was depleted. And so we need that. And then we have, of course, baby items. That we have a brand new member at Havenwood, about 4 or 5 days old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we now have a 17 or 18 kiddos running around from 4 days to 10 years. And so it is never boring.
I bet.
And so the pantries need help. We're always looking for volunteers.
What type of activities?
Great question. If you like kiddos, we need babysitters on Tuesday nights. Right now, we got a great mom and son group that are babysitting on Tuesday nights, which is awesome. So they'll come out and visit, and Tuesday nights for a couple of hours, we need babysitters. And then we have a lot of events to support our moms. So this Saturday, we're having a graduation ceremony for 3 of our moms that completed the course.
Wonderful.
And I should say thank you to Duracell, because they have really stepped up to make this a beautiful day. They stepped in and volunteered after the storm. They cleaned out all the debris. And they've got a big water bouncy castle thing coming in for the kiddos to play in. We've got a food truck coming in, an ice cream truck coming in. So these families, we've got about 65, 75 family members and friends that are going to be there for this graduation fun day.
That's fantastic.
in our playground.
And that quick plug for Duracell, we worked with them regularly. Great team.
That's so cool.
Wonderful team of people.
They've been amazing. After the storms, they showed up with the tractors and started hauling stuff out, and they've been over 2 or 3 times as volunteers just to help clean up. And it's just been amazing. So they stepped up in a huge way, and they've become a big part of our graduation ceremony this Saturday. So I was real excited about that. So yeah, there's opportunities to volunteer for different events, clerical, marketing, you name it. We're always needing talented folks to come in and help out. There's a team of 4 of us right now. I'm looking for a 5th.
Always a need.
Always.
Well, what are there? So obviously there's, yes, financial needs as well. So, I mean, care to elaborate on?
Sure. Havenwood has 14 families when we're at capacity. We got one bedroom open right now that we'll be filling pretty soon. The financial need, we have about a $500,000 budget. And one of the things I love to talk about is what we call friends of the family. These are monthly donors. So when you have events like the tornadoes and the storms, or you have unforeseen emergencies happen in these families' lives, which you can imagine with 14 lives coming out of crises, there always seems to be some disruption. Monthly donors allow a nonprofit to respond to emergencies quickly. And you see it across the board, not just Havenwood. My previous experience, you talked about a LifeWater, similar situation. If we had, we're building a well in Uganda and something happens, that monthly donor empowers us to make a decision quickly on how far can we stretch the budget, because we know what's going to come in next month. And so that is really a confidence empowering thing for the team there at Havenwood is, well, we know we can respond to this mom's need because we can count on X next month. So the other thing it does, it helps a nonprofit plan strategically. So, okay, we're doing well right now. What happens in August or September? we don't really know because it's back to school. Giving's going to slack off. It's going to, their family's going to be stretched. I hate to kind of pick on our politicians, but I will. They got thick-skinned. In an election year, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so the economy starts maybe getting questionable, or inflation maybe goes up. Well, your donors, that pocketbook gets a little tighter. And so your nonprofits feel that too. So your monthly donor, even if it's a modest amount, helps insulate that nonprofit from those events. And so that's always a big need. So I call them friends of the family. Mm-hmm. You can go to our website and our giving page. There's a little box that says "Make mine a monthly gift." Ooh, that's solid gold. That's a beautiful thing.
But how about I know that we've been to a few of your events, and we've, I have experienced some of your success stories, because there's people that are willing to come up and talk about changes that, Havenwood's made in their lives, and give them a better trajectory. So, care to elaborate on one of those stories? Or
I'll brag on Chelsea all day long. Chelsea is one of the most inspiring women, I think, that I've met since coming to Havenwood. Chelsea will tell her story far better than I can. Mm-hmm. Her vulnerability is her strength. She's amazing. She's at Outdoor Cap, and she's working there at Outdoor Cap as an account exec, doing great. Shout out to Outdoor Cap. Again, an incredible team and incredible people. I learned about Chelsea when I first arrived at Havenwood. She was a graduate in 2023, in January 2023. She became an addict at the age of 13 and had lived a life as an addict from 13 all through later in life as she began to run into trouble with the law, addiction, and so forth. I'm cutting the story terribly short. She tells it far better than I do, but she was in prison. Her longest stint, I believe, was 10 years in federal pen for drug trafficking. Obviously, she dries out and cleans up during that time, but she's released and she relapses into her addiction. Sometime during that relapse, she became pregnant. Well, her pregnancy then was her wake-up call. And so she starts feeling like, if I don't do something, this baby and I are, And so she finds Havenwood. The day she signs her lease to enter into Havenwood, she delivers her baby boy. Wow. And so the first 2 years of his life are right there at Havenwood. And it's still today when they drive up into the parking lot, home? Are we home? And she knows. Awesome. And so Chelsea is just an inspiration. She shares her story, like I said, again, with courage and vulnerability. She's doing well. She's been sober now a little over 3 years. She's doing great at Outdoor Cap. I was recently there at a health and wellness event that Outdoor Cap sponsored for local nonprofits in the area. And everybody I talked to kept telling me about how they have a colleague at Outdoor Cap that you got to, and it's Chelsea.
That's awesome.
And what she's doing. Well, I couldn't resist. She's now one of our board members at Havenwood.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I celebrate the lives of Chelsea, and there's so many other women like her. Lisa is another one that comes to mind that just recently graduated, and she'll be one of the ladies we're celebrating this weekend. Mm-hmm. Just amazing to see them. It's their determination, and it's these stories are incredible because they are rare. Mm-hmm. Our world is a messy world, and it's hard, and I'm going to get emotional. What these ladies go through, I can't imagine. And in the world where they're living, where that's so broken, and good, solid decisions are so hard to make because you're stuck in this fight or flight or freeze world, that side of the brain just doesn't work right. Mm-hmm. It's just too much pressure. Mm-hmm. And so if you can get them to a place where they can feel safe and they feel stability, then they can start making decisions that progress them out of it. And it's so hard. It's true for all of us, regardless if it's, a lady at Havenwood or Jim at home. Mm-hmm. Once those emotions kick in and I start on that cycle of that self-talk and that internal dialogue that sends us spiraling, if we can interrupt that, then we can start making some solid decisions. That's what we get to see in these ladies' lives, and it's so hard. It's one trip of the domino starts a chain reaction. And so to see them start making decisions that will grow them out of that crisis and into that self-sufficiency, it's exciting to see it.
Amen.
We have to ask some ladies to leave on occasion, but we have just as many that are graduating and moving on to solid lives. I've seen alum that are now working inside of insurance offices. We've got an elementary art teacher in Fayetteville.
That's wonderful.
You'll find Havenwood alum everywhere, and
That's
it's
wonderful.
really cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What does that do to you, Jim? So I'm not trying to be, get into the negative Nelly, but I think it's important. Well, here's the thing I'll say. So, and I've known you for quite some time now, and I know a few others that are involved in, nonprofit organizations, and it takes a lot,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot out of you.
I'm blessed in the sense that I'm even a step removed. The real champions at Havenwood are our program team. Tara Burkhart is our program director. Mercedes Bates, she's our case manager. Brittany Hinton is a case manager. They're the front lines. Even yesterday, went home hurting for a family. I'm almost a step removed from it. My job is to love on them. I've got to love on that team. I've got to serve them in every way I can so they can go and love on 14 other mamas that are needing it. And I do use the term love intentionally because some of these conversations are really hard. And some of these, you got to be really truthful, and it's going to hurt. But they got to know and trust you enough to be able to say those things and hear those things. And that's not always the case. It's not always received well. It's not always, taken well. But you just do the best you can. I have to give credit to the other nonprofits. I call them sister organizations. They understand because they're in the fire, so to speak. And we're starting to build out a good network of friends that we can go talk to. And it's professionals that understand kind of what you're going through. If it weren't for that network of individuals and my church, I don't know what I would do, because it does become, we're all very similar in the sense that we wear our emotions on our sleeve. I am not a good poker face. New Creature never wanted me in the negotiation room, I'll tell you that. I'm more than happy to do customer service, but you don't want me negotiating the contract. And even in Hollywood, I would tell my clients, I'll make you a whole lot more money if you're willing to walk away from the table. But I can't negotiate. I just tell them, you won't do it if you don't pay. But so I even hate negotiating my own salary. But it's one of those situations where Tara and that team to have to, first of all, be professional in the sense that they guard the well-being of all the families there and have those difficult conversations. That's where a community needs to remember that the donor, the volunteer, even me, we're nothing more than opportunity providers. I'm providing this family an opportunity to make a decision that might help them. Whether they grab it or not, whether they see it or not, or recognize it, that's not my job. It's not my position to own that. That's on them. My job's just to create the opportunity. Tara, Brittany, Mercedes, I refer to them as the caregivers. They are giving care. They are giving care. We as a community need to respond to these caregivers and care for them. That's what I'd love to see more of. And I could use anybody as Women's Shelter, Children's Shelter, Child and Family Advocacy Center, Hub of Hope, Saving Grace. These are organizations that oh my goodness, there's so many of them. I feel bad for leaving so many people out, but go care for the caregivers. And one analogy I like to use, I was at a church, and a gentleman, he meant well. I know what he meant. He goes, I want to be sure that this is going to your program. I'm not here to pay for your salary. And I knew the gentleman well enough so I could be sarcastic with him and it was okay. I said, so what I'm hearing you say is you want to pay for the ministry, but you just don't want to pay for the minister. And that's what I mean about these caregivers. I don't have Havenwood without a program team. These case managers are there every week, and they're trying to help these ladies. They're trying to do the right thing. They're going to make mistakes. The ladies are going to make mistakes. They're going to be misunderstandings. It's all part of the drama that is. But it might have been Patrick who said this. I'll credit Patrick. God gets people done through work. And that's what we see happen at Havenwood constantly. It's this working towards something together that God gets work done in us. And if I could give anybody some advice, I can show you how not to do things. I'm really good at that. But it would be allow yourself and allow whoever you're working with enough grace to let God do whatever God needs to do in that person. And just be patient with that. And it's hard. It's tough. And so that's just wonderful. Havenwood's a big part of my makeup right now. It's really love being there. It's hard. It's every day is a challenge, but I love it.
I bet you don't know what you're walking into someday.
Oh no, you never know what you're walking into. No, it's always, I remember it was funny that there's a young boy. He's not with us anymore. He and his mom have moved on, but he used to every morning. I usually get to the office early. I'm an early riser, so I'm usually there before I should be. But he'll knock on the door around 7 o'clock on his way to school, or 7:30, and I'll go to the door, and he has to give me his fist bump before he goes off to school.
That's awesome.
And so I miss that, and so that's what Havenwood's provided that I didn't have before. Even at JBU, Life Water, some of these other nonprofits, Work Matters was another great experience. It was always by scale. How many lives can we impact? Here at Havenwood, it's not so much by scale, but it's by degree of impact. You're arriving, maybe you've got 2 or 3 crises that you've experienced that you're coming out of. Maybe there is abuse and homelessness, and maybe there's some addiction challenges. Okay, we got a pretty severe case, but the degree of change we can make in 2 years sets them on a different charted course, if you will. 5-10 years down the road, they might be a elementary art teacher in Fayetteville. And so that's the kind of, that same lady, as a matter of fact, told me her son graduated University of Arkansas as an engineer and is working at J.B. Hunt.
Praise God for that.
And so I'm like, that's the kind of stuff I love to hear about, is that the young man that...
Generational impact.
Exactly. The young man that might have been at Havenwood is now graduating college. So that's fun to see. If I could have any dream, it would have all the alumni of Havenwood come back and reveal who they are and what they're doing now. I'd love to hear that story.
That'd be a great one. That'd be a great one. Well, let's shift to segue. And, you kind of brought up a point a minute ago. You're giving advice. So you've been a part of a lot of things, Jim. So let's talk about professional advice just for a second. So, what professional advice, if you could, that comes to top of mind, you could offer to, say, a young professional right now that's getting out in the world, doesn't know what to expect? Where does your head go?
Young professional, and this is the old curmudgeon, find somebody with some grit.
Okay.
That seems to be the one thing I wish I could see more of. Grit, passion. I care about my job. I don't care if it's a server at a restaurant. I want to see that server doing their job as if they care about it. That's the one. Find a mentor that you respect from that level, that has been through some stuff, has some scars. The successful people, we always think of the successful folks. I want to learn from those that, in my case, at Work Matters, I had access to folks like Donnie Smith and Shelley Simpson, and I'd sit there just thinking, oh, teach me. I've literally failed my way to the top.
That's a first for me. I failed my way to the top.
I failed my way to the... I'm sitting here because of God's grace and my ignorance. And I tell people that all the time. Find somebody that has some wounds, that has some scars, that maybe has had some failures in life, because I guarantee you that's where they learned their lessons.
Mm-hmm.
It's always in those valleys where we've learned the most valuable lessons in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the mountaintops are great celebrations,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the valley. It's what I learned in the valley that got me there.
Absolutely.
And so find that mentor that encourages that grit.
Mm-hmm.
Stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't jump ship just because it's starting to get rocky.
Mm-hmm.
See it through a little bit. See what's
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's something to learn there. Maybe there's an opportunity to present itself that you don't see yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Patrick that used to, quoting Patrick so much today. It's
I hear you.
But trust the power of pursuit.
Yeah.
And he'd say that, and I love the visual of that, because as you pursue whatever goal it is you're after, your horizon changes.
Mm-hmm.
You turn a corner and there's a new horizon, or you crest a hill and it's a new horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that there's going to be a new horizon. Fight through this, what you can't see right now. Havenwood was in a really difficult place in August through November of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I really questioned, what, am I the guy that's going to have to close the doors? Please, no. Not after 30 years of beautiful operation. Don't let me be the one to...
Mm-hmm.
And if I had given up, it would have been awful.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine what would have happened to those families.
Mm-hmm.
December came and we had one of the biggest Decembers that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned things around. And now we got a wonderful, beautiful momentum. We had some volunteers that knocked it out of the park. I'm on a new horizon. And so we don't know what the next turn's going to bring.
Mm-hmm.
Just be patient. Grit, grit, grit.
Keep on.
Keep it on.
Okay, what about personal advice?
Personal advice.
Let's dig down. Let's get outside of the job. Your journey is not working, Jim.
No.
It's personal, Jim.
Personal, Jim. It's going to take courage to be transparent. If I'm completely transparent with somebody, the why that I do all this is because I have a maker in Christ who loved Jim and changed Jim's heart from this very, very bitter, self-centric, manipulative individual who wanted to climb the ladder regardless of, I wanted my Tony, my Oscar, and my Emmy. And I called it my toe award. I wanted my toe award. I wanted my Tony, my Oscar, my Emmy. I got to work with Kristen Chenoweth. I got to work on Emmy-nominated television shows, and I got to work on Oscar-nominated films, but I never got one. I was just bitter about that. That anger and frustration I still battle today, but I still want to battle it because of the impact that Christ had on me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my why. I'm at Havenwood because I see caregivers and my program team that are doing beautiful work, merciful, graceful. They need encouragement. They need somebody to care about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
For 14 families that have been on the side of evil that I can't imagine going through, they need help. And so that all comes from that change that occurred in me. Mm-hmm. So that's my why. It's not always easy to share that.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture makes it a socio-political conversation, and I can see where religion would be, but what's happened in me was not socio-political.
Mm-hmm.
It was transformational, and it was an experience that I need to share with others. And so I would say from a personal side, having the courage to be transparent, that's hard. Because you're inviting risk, you're inviting hurt, you're inviting disagreement, and that has to be okay. It just has to be okay.
It's wonderful and heavy all at the same time.
Yeah, I know.
It's good.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
And Christ was the model for that. It was the self-sacrificing love that he had that turned the world against him and hated him because he revealed their ugliness because he was so beautiful. We see it all the time where people aren't liked just because of the good that they're trying to do, and he's goody two-shoes or whatever. We see it in a lot of different forms, but there's going to be loss, if you want to call it that, sacrifice necessary for the good of somebody else
Mm-hmm.
that I may never know why or get payment back or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's what nonprofit is to me. Just keep giving and don't worry about the payback.
That's wonderful. Well, last question for today, Jim. You've just wonderful conversation.
Here's the hard one. Okay.
No. So, Jim, I'm looking at your record from 1989.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't there. I don't know.
I like to ask this question for a lot of people that bring the insight that you have today. What gives Jim joy?
Oh, man. We're going to be here for another hour. I'm sure it's just because of the season I'm in, but my daughter is getting married in like 11 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been reflecting on her life. And the biggest joys I've ever had have been through her eyes, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
I love being outside and fishing and camping and hunting and that. I love that stuff. That's where I go to just kind of be quiet and still. My daughter has this brilliant way of looking at life that I just wish I had. And so I think what brings me joy has been kind of reflecting on life through her eyes.
Mm.
And so she and I have had some great conversations lately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say my wife and daughter have been the biggest source of joy in my life. I don't know what I'd be doing today if it hadn't been for Sarah. I'd be a knucklehead out on the West Coast somewhere doing something stupid. But she walked into my life and absolutely turned it upside down in the best way possible. And then God blessed with Marlo, my daughter, and it's been a joy to reflect on the season of life that has been raising her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see what happens in this next chapter with her and her new husband to be. We're excited about that.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, very blessed.
Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough for being on here.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
And I hope you'll come again.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jeff.
appreciate you.